Professor Lumumba tonight to speak to us.
Thank you very much. First, let me say how glad I am to be with you this evening. In the month of January, I had the honor and privilege of meeting my brothers and sisters here in Boston. And we had occasion to reflect on the problems not only of the southern Cameroons, but the problems of Africa. And when one thinks about this continent, particularly at this time, particularly in this 21st century, particularly when one has seen the atrocities that are being perpetrated by brother against sister, and man's inhumanity to man, one wonders whether those in the continent who have the privilege and honor of occupying political leadership have hearts of stone. Because the truth be told, and I see quite a number of elderly men and women and young men and women in this gathering, the very reason why Africans struggled to regain their independence was that we would restore dignity and self-esteem. But yet when you look at the footage that we have had the opportunity to look at, very few of us in the continent of Africa are even concerned or worried about the atrocities in southern Cameroon. I have observed in the last few years, and I've talked about it, that what surprises and annoys me at once is that African leaders gather in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, every year. And this year, beyond Addis Ababa, they gathered in Nouakchott, in Mauritania. But the problem of Cameroons never features as something that should concern Africa. There are many other conflicts that we know about in the continent. And the tragedy is that they never occupied the pride of place in the agenda that preoccupies Africa. I've seen in the last few years the leaders of Europe meeting in several European capitals to discuss the migration and the death of young Africans in the Mediterranean Sea, which we now know as the graveyard for young Africans. And yet our political leaders are unmoved and untouched. We have seen several fora at which our leaders receive various leaders in the world, and somehow our leaders are unmoved and untouched. We have seen numerous reports by various organizations, particularly in Europe and America, which have documented the atrocities and the plight of the people of southern Cameroons. Yet our leaders are unmoved and untouched. We have seen sham elections organized where the winners are predetermined and known advance of the vote. Yet our leaders are unmoved and untouched. When one lives in an environment such as that, it is very easy to give up. It is very easy to say, well, I'm outside of the trouble spot, and therefore I need not be concerned. But what energizes me and what legitimizes our concern is drawn from the famous speech of the German theologian Lumumba, when during the World War II he said, when they came for the socialists, I said nothing because I was not a socialist. When they came for the trade unionists, I said nothing because I was not a trade unionist. When they came for the Jews, I said nothing because I was not a Jew. When they came for me, there was nobody to say anything. And that to me is what gives and lends credence to this eternal truth that we must be our brothers and sisters' keepers. I have in the last few years traveled in many parts of Africa, and for some reason, without any design on my part, the problematic areas of Africa have always found a place in the speeches that I've delivered. Sometimes I too ask myself, all these things that we are we saying them in vain? Are there minds and hearts that are touched and moved by the things that we say? Are we merely orating in the void for those of us who are Christians, like John the Baptist speaking in the wilderness? Is it to no avail? And those of you who are in the diaspora from the southern Cameroons, there is sometimes a sense of helplessness because geography removes you from the theater of trouble and war. But the reality is, whenever you are away from your home, no matter how comfortable you are, your spirit will always remain restless and unsettled. And that is what legitimizes our concern. And there are many friends that I have gathered in the last 3 years as I travel across Africa, spanning many countries. I can count within the ranks of my friends from southern Cameroons, individuals that I talk to almost on a daily basis, now in exile in Nigeria. I can count those who are exiled in Germany, those who are exiled in the United Kingdom, those who are exiled in the United States of America. And I'm certain that there are many more that I've never met and will never meet. But the only thing that I know is that their spirits are not at ease. It is very easy for one who is not in the theater of battle to moralize about the situation that we are talking about. The images that I've seen here are images that I receive almost on a daily basis from my friends inside of Cameroon. Yet there is a government in Cameroon whose leaders swore on the Bible to protect the lives of their people. Yet there are leaders who preside over those atrocities, but somehow in a manner that defies human logic and human understanding, they are at peace with themselves, so we believe. The question is, we who are here, what keeps us going? Because it can be a very lonely environment in which to operate. You may be here, but you are brothers and cousins. You may be here, but as the African saying goes, your umbilical cords are resident in Cameroon. And in African tradition and mythology, where your umbilical cord was buried, that is where you are. And you know, as I have lived and observed, I've seen many struggles. As a young person at the university, I saw those who are struggling against the dictatorship of Idi Amin in Uganda. When they were uprooted from Uganda and they sought refuge in Kenya, in Tanzania, and in different parts of the world. And some of them gave up and they thought that the problem would not be resolved. But ultimately, Idi Amin was removed. The perpetrators of evil will always go, no matter how long it takes. No matter how long it takes. They may delude themselves that they are immortal, but they are not immortal. But yet I learned another lesson, that the reality is that the people will always solve their problems. At that critical time in the history of Uganda, the Ugandans solved their problems. During that period, I also remember that there were problems in countries such as Angola and Mozambique. The world raised its voice, but once again it is the people who solved their problems. There were refugees in Tanzania from Mozambique. There were refugees in Angola, in different parts of Africa, but ultimately, those who are in exile, somehow, they are always the rare base of those who are in the theater of war. And Angola and Mozambique liberated themselves. There are those who thought that the apartheid regime would not die, that it was designed to live forever. And the architects of apartheid thought that they indeed would live forever. But in 1990s, it is the obituary of the apartheid regime that we wrote and we sang the birth song of a new dawn in South Africa. I say all this acutely aware that sometimes you feel like giving up. Sometimes you say, but why should I care? Sometimes you think it is a useless exercise. Sometimes you think that the enemy is too big and too organized. There are many more before you who thought so. But it is darkest before dawn. You know, in 1994, as a young graduate, when we started hearing about the atrocities that were being perpetrated in Rwanda, The United Nations was eloquent in her silence. Eloquent in her silence. The Organization of African Unity, or the OAU, was eloquent in her silence. The neighboring countries were eloquent in their silence. It took the Rwandese in exile in Uganda and in different parts of Africa and in different parts of the world to make a resolve that we are going home and we are going to resolve our problem. 1 million people had died by that time. But the problem was resolved. The other peoples whose plight energize me as I walk across Africa are the Jews. You and me know that in 1940s, the Nazi regime played the Jews that they could round up, and they got them and used every means known to man to undertake what they describe as the final solution. I've seen a similar effort by the administration of President Biya to have a final solution. And those who want the final solution normally want to burn the evidence. Young men and women are being burned there so that mass graves may never be found. That is the reason. You burn the evidence, but you can never burn people's memories. That is the other reality. And there is always something that is resident in man's heart, the desire to go home. The Israelites had been scattered for over 2,000 years. And in 1948, some of you were alive in 1948, when the new state was created, demonstrating once again that nations reside in people's hearts. Your land is in your heart. And I have no doubt in my mind that ultimately victory will be realized. It may not be in your lifetime. It may not. You know, sometimes we get frustrated because we think that all the solutions to our problems will be found during our lifetime. History has demonstrated times without number that your duty is to play your part. Play your part. Wherever you are. Many of you here and I've had conversations with my friend from the southern Cameroons and Amazonia now, and they have narrated to me the circumstances and the conditions that they ran away from to go into distant lands, to seek refuge in distant lands. But yet, despite the comfort that they appear to have, their hearts are troubled. They are not at ease. Because how can one be at ease when one's aboriginal village has been burned down? How can one be at ease when your cousins and friends and relatives are dying and being killed on a daily basis? How can one be at ease when the promises of independence have not been realized? How can one be at ease? The question then is, what must we do? Throughout history, it has been demonstrated that the enemy uses only one instrument to divide the people. Now that you are in different parts of the world, there will be within your ranks men and women who will be approached by the enemy to destroy the struggle. You must immunize yourself. You must immunize yourself from the machinations, the diabolical machinations of the enemy. Because history has been right and continues to be right, that the easiest way to destroy a struggle is to divide the people. And once you divide the people and you sow the seeds of dissension within the people, then they will be conquered and they will be ruled and humiliated in perpetuity. That is how slavery was perpetrated and perpetuated. That is how colonization was perpetrated and perpetuated. That is how the neo-colonial project was perpetrated and perpetuated. That is why many struggles in Africa continue beyond their sell-by date, because within our ranks we allow ourselves to be enticed with modern-day mirrors like our grandfathers were during the days of slavery and colonization. We must not allow that. Each one of us must be a servant. In fact, history has demonstrated that the best leaders are those who are reluctant to be leaders. When you see anybody who is very eager to be a leader, that is not a leader, that is a misleader. I take the view that if in any organization you want to give one an opportunity to believe, to be a leader, the one who is most reluctant is the one who should be given the opportunity to serve. He who is too eager has an agenda. He who is too eager is a dealer who wants an opportunity. To my comrades in southern Cameroon, that this is a battle is not for the faint-hearted. As somebody who does not live in the Cameroons, I will not attempt to explain the struggle. You know the struggle. I will not prescribe the solutions. You know the solutions. The value of individuals like us is that we continue to walk around the world without fear of consequence. To tell the world that Africa must not allow atrocities to be perpetrated against the people of southern Cameroons and other peoples in Africa who are wondering, why is it that we struggle for independence? I go to several places in Africa today and I hear people who are born after independence say, it is better that we were recolonized. I hear people say that. When you hear the children of former slaves say and be saying that they want that it's better if they are enslaved, saying that the slave master is better than them, then you know that something has died in them. We must never allow that to happen.
That's right.
I'm happy that in this assembly I see the elderly. I see the younger ones. I see that there is a transgenerational arrangement so that the elderly who have played their part can now say, we see the young suckers that will grow when the old bananas die. As I conclude, I want to make reference to two experiences which I've seen dramatized and which, in my view, must inform your struggle going forward. Many of you here must have watched the dramatization by Alex Haley in the movie Roots. And he is telling that I'm talking about roots here in the United States of America, where Kunta Kinte was brought by the enslavers. And I remember very poignantly when Liva Barton, who was playing the role of Kunta Kinte, was asked, "Where do you come from?" He said, "I'm a Mandinka warrior from the village of Jufure in the Gambia." Each one of us here will always remember you are not from Cambridge in Massachusetts. You are from Yaoundé, or from Douala, or from Buya, or Bamenda, because the entire place is part of us. And you're also from Yaoundé, because it's part of Africa.
Yes, that's right.
When we are talking about Pan-Africanism, our vision should not be restricted to Ambazonia. Ambazonia is your North Band.
Yes.
You are from Abuja.
Amen.
You are from Lagos.
Yes.
That's right. So the spirit of the people in Bamenda, the spirit of Ambazonia is alive in our hearts. And I'm submitting to you. If you see it in your lifetime, thank the gods. If you don't, remember that you have played your part and you have passed over the baton. That's one other generation. The last dramatization that I want to remind us of is the struggle that was mounted by the Indians against the British. And I remember at one of the conferences on the negotiation table, the great Mahatma Gandhi, as the lone negotiator, was asked by one of the English generals, "And you think that the British will just leave India?" And he said, "Yes, they will just leave India. Because at the opportune time, the mango must ripen and fall from the tree, whether the tree wants it or not." And if beer is the tree and Amazonia is the fruit, at the appropriate moment, the fruit will fall down. We are not masters of the law of nature, but I know nature has its own uncanny habit of defying all logic. You know, it is still true that it is darkest before dawn. It is dark, but dawn brings forth light. It is still true that there is light at the end of the tunnel. And I can assure you that it's not the light of an oncoming train. It is a light that is going to bring fresh air to the people of Amazonia and southern Cameroons, therefore. So, brethren, my appeal to you is that those of us who have chosen the path of speaking to the hearts and minds of these leaders, we will continue to do so. But remember, for those of you who are Christians, in the Bible it is written that 10 times the Pharaoh's heart was hardened. There is no shortage of latter-day Pharaohs. Their hearts are hardened. That is why even when truth sits on their laps, they cannot recognize the truth. That is why when the evidence is placed before their very eyes, they cannot see the evidence. That is why when evil is telling them to stop, they think that evil is a friend. That is why they think that they have become immortal. But the truth is, all men and women born of men and women die. The truth is that the truth never dies. The truth is that the people of Amazonia will regain their independence. is that freedom must be demanded. The truth is that freedom must have her matters. And there have been many matters in southern Cameroons. The time has come that we must wake up the conscience of the world. And we are going to shout from every mountain, from every molehill, to ensure that the world becomes aware. I look forward to the day when in the next 1 year we'll be sending a 1 million petition to the United Nations. When we'll be submitting that petition. In my view, those are the type of things that we must do. These gatherings and other gatherings of Amazonians must now prepare a 1 million petition to be presented simultaneously in all the 55 African capitals to all governments in and I look forward to the next year at the UN General Assembly when the people of Amazonia will be present to confront the leaders of the world, to tell them that this is no longer justified. But I hope and believe that the problem will be solved sooner rather than later. Ladies and gentlemen, brethren, I have no doubt that we have a struggle to mount. It is not for the faint-hearted. Remember, darkness can be dampening. It can dampen our spirits, but do not give up. Do not give up. Do not give up. Do not give up. Because those who give up never win anything. God bless you.